Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be working on some vocal edits. As you can see here, I have a session live already, and these are the vocals that we're going to be working. I started today by highlighting the area that we're going to be working on, and this is the area, so let's go ahead and take a listen before we get started. All right, so there you have that. Let's go ahead and check it without the main vocals and without the track, and then I'm also going to mute these vocals here because they kind of come in at the end. So let's hear what we have, what we're working with. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that's there. I cut your body. Yeah, the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that's there. I cut your body. All right, there you go. So as you can see, there we have some pretty nice vocals that we're working with. Some of the stuff is a little off time, as you can see, and we're gonna work to correct all of that, and I'll show you the process. Got a lot of backing vocals, and without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started here. So the first thing that I will typically do is I'll isolate the main vocal, and then I'll give that main vocal a listen. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, so what I'm checking for now is I'm checking for timing. And let me go ahead and actually press C on the keyboard so I can close the loop. And I'm going to start a new loop just for that vocal. That way I can check the timing a little more accurately. So, cause the sunrise is very lonely. So that's a pretty bouncy vocal, and we want to make sure that that vocal is in the pocket. So I'm going to make sure I have enough pre-roll, and then I'm going to count myself in, and I'm going to listen to the vocal and see where that vocal should actually sit. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. Cause the sunrise. All right, so maybe this should go. Cause the sunrise. All right, so once I've identified where the vocal should sit, now it's going to be time to start actually editing. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, so that's actually not too bad. What I think I might do with this one is I might just extend it a little bit so it flows on the beat a little bit more. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, now let's listen to how that sounds. So let me go ahead and mute all these other vocals and just hear that with the track. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, so let's hear. Let me undo it. Let me undo this action so I can hear that again. All right, so this is with it without the correction. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. this is with the action. Man, that's a close that's a close call right there. Right here without it. This is where you have to use your best discretion, because it it's kind of hard to decide where, because the vocals can fit into the track, several different ways. And in phase one here, this is where you really have to decide, okay, so how do I want this to fit? One thing that I could do, let me see where I'm at. Okay, so that's after this, before. So before I mess with this track, what I can do is I can begin by putting this transient right here, so we can line that up. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and cut that. I'll put my marker there, and then what I'm just going to do is I'm going to move this so the transient of this word "cuz" lines up with the beat. So that's step one. Now I'm going to go ahead and just re-stretch this so the middle of that sibilance links up with that middle, and then I'm going to crossfade. So now let's hear what that sounds like. Alright, so that right there helped out a lot. So now that vocal just kind of comes in right on time. Now that is very, seems like it's rushed a little bit. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right here before it gets to that word "is," which is right there. Is, that's very lonely right here. So lonely. So this is actually a little bit behind, because here's where the words should be coming in, and these are the transients of those tracks. So instead of extending it, so let me see, hold on, right here. So I might actually cut this right here, and then I will push this back just a tiny bit. And now I will line this transient here where I think the note should be coming in, lonely, and then I'll extend this backwards so it's one cohesive track. Now let's hear that. Alright, that's sounding pretty good to me. Now the last thing I want to decide is the length of this word here, and it looks like it's cutting off on time, so I think that we can just leave that. Now I will mute the track, and then I'm just gonna hear it with just a click track. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very... Let me make sure that sunrise is coming in on time. Let's see, because the sunrise right there, yeah. There's that sun. Because the sunrise. This actually could go back a little bit. I'm going to move that word a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that that lines up on the transient more. So we're going to put that there, and then I'm going to stretch this. That's lining up good. All right, let's hear it now. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sun is very lonely. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sun is very lonely. All right, yeah, no, that wasn't nice, so we'll just leave it as is. All right, so now that that is set pretty much in the pocket here, I'm gonna go ahead and listen to it with the other vocals. Okay, so here we are. We're gonna chime these vocals in, and now we're gonna work on the doubles. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, so let's go ahead and mute these as well. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, so now you can hear a little bit. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise. You hear that? How all of them don't really come in at the same time. That's one of the major things that we're going to want to focus on. We're going to want to make sure that each of these come in on the transient. So take a look. These two are kind of lined up. Now this vocal is not lined up as much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut right there. I'm also going to make a cut right here just to get these perfect. I'm going to move this back a little bit so the transient's right there, and I'm going to move this forward a little bit so the transient's right there. I'm also going to cut right here, and I'm going to bring this in so it matches the start time. Okay, so that starts pretty good right there. So what I need to do is I need to cut right here. And you can't stretch backwards, but what you can do is you can move the track backwards, and then you'll be able to stretch it to fit, just like that. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise. And right there, that's an improvement right there. You want to save as you go. You always want to save as you go. So I'll just go ahead and do a quick save right there. And then let's take a listen. Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. All right, and that pretty much took care of that, we're going to go ahead and line the rest of this up now. And how we're going to do that is I'll split it right here. You know, this is a little bit, you don't have to get everything absolutely perfect. You can leave some wiggle room. It all depends on the effect that you're going for. And sometimes a little bit of variance sounds great, especially when you cut the main vocal and if you're doing a left to right.
Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
And then you have like a nice little effect like that.
Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise.
All right, so now let's fix this space right here. But what I'm going to want to do is I want to make sure that these are lined up properly. I'm going to cut right here. And that is looking pretty good. So I don't want this to move yet, but I do want to move this a little bit. I want to move this word a tiny bit. So what I'll do is I'll move that back. Then I'll move this transient back just a little bit. And then I'll stretch this forward a little bit to kind of rejoin the vocal in the sibilants. All right, and now that this vocal's in the same place, I'm going to do the same thing. Stretch that out to rejoin. And then stretch this out to rejoin. Now I'm going to solo this and I'm going to listen for any artifacts. Let me see if that was the singer or the edit. All right, so that seems to have been the edit. So we'll move this over a little bit more. Oh, all right, hold on. Just to make that a little less noticeable. All right, now let's listen. All right, let's get it a little bit closer. All right, now we'll solo the other tracks so they're playing together. Now we'll play all three.
'Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, excellent. So now what I like to do is I like to look for any background vocals that'll be engaged during the same time, and then I'll move them so they're underneath here, just so I can have everything in the same place. So I'll unmute these and I'll solo these. Actually, I'll unsolo these because it works good that way. And then let's hear what we have.
Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
One more time.
Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, let's listen with the music. It's starting to sound a lot tighter now, but these backup vocals are not quite in sync with these vocals, so let's go ahead and check it out.
Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
Yeah, that's good. I think we're gonna want to do the same thing. We're gonna want to make sure that all of these come in at the same time. So we'll just follow the same process. First, we'll take a quick scan and see overall. This so far seems to be a little bit ahead. this back portion seems to be a little bit more on point. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a small cut right here. And we're going to bring this up a bit. And then we're going to move this back to where the transients match a little bit. Yeah, we'll do it like that. All right, so now that these are more in place, we'll go ahead and bring this back out. Make that natural. We'll go ahead and cut right here. Move this in a little bit so that these transients match. These already looking like they're starting around the same, so that works. And now we'll pull this back. Okay, so now we're gonna solo it. Listen for artifacts.
Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, and that's sounding good. So now we'll move to the next background.
Cause the sun.
All right, and we'll do the same thing. Quick scan to just kind of get our bearings on where these audio forms should be. So you can see right here, this is a little head right here. This is kind of almost on point, so we're gonna make a cut right here. This is a little bit behind right here. You can see the transients, so I'm gonna go make a cut just so you can see a little bit more clearly. Transient here, transient here. Make another cut right here. This back half seems to be lined up pretty well, so I don't want to affect that too much. All right, so let's go ahead and work with what we got here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to move this up so it lines up a little better. Now that that's lined up, we'll go ahead and pull these out so they meet in the syllabants. Crossfade. Want to line this up a little bit. No, I think it was actually, all right, there you go. That's good. We're going to want to crossfade here, so it's crossfade in the syllabants. And this one we're going to need a major adjustment, so we'll cut right here. All right, and now we're going to pull this back and fade it in the syllabants. And we're going to move this up so we can line this up properly here. We're going to pull it back, and then we'll pull it back so it cuts in the syllabants. Now we're going to solo it and listen.
Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, and so that should about do it for these main vocals. Let's listen back and hear.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
So
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
I might want to tighten up that lower is very lonely just a little bit. And I believe that's this one.
Cause the sunrise is very lonely. Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, so what I will want to do here is vary. I'm going want to cut right here. And this needs to be moved up a little bit. And I'm going to pull this back a little bit so it matches in the syllabus. Now that my edits have been made, I'm going to solo the track, make sure there's no artifacts.
Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, now I'll hear that with everything.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, perfect. So now the last thing I'm going to want to do is I want to make sure that all of these vocals are ending at the same time and there's no outliers. You can see this last note is a little bit hanging off extra, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure that doesn't hang off extra. This note right here is looking pretty good. It's not hanging out extra, so we don't need to adjust that one as much. This one, however, needs to be extended a time. Oh, you don't want to. You also want to make sure that you're affecting the right track. So make sure only the track that you want to affect is highlighted. So now we're going to stretch this out just a tiny bit. We're going to stretch this track out a tiny bit. And this last track, we're actually going to shrink a tiny bit so that all of these tracks end on time with the main vocal and there's nothing extra hanging over. We're going to tighten up these endings here just a little bit, and now we'll take a listen.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, now let's listen with the track and hear what we did.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
Very good. One more time.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely.
All right, perfect. Now that we have our first vocal lined up, let's go ahead and line up our second set of vocals. We'll start by selecting our second set of vocals. We'll unmute them. We'll look for any backing vocals that belong, and we'll go ahead and put those right underneath, and we'll select those as well. And now we will select the area that we will be working on and give it a listen. Alright, so let's go ahead and mute these so that we're not hearing extra. Let's go ahead and mute this.
When you're the only one that's
All right, so not too shabby.
when you're the only one that's
Let's go ahead and mute the backup vocals and concentrate on the main vocal. So again, I'm going to isolate the main vocal. I'm going to mute these, and I'm going to focus only on where I want these vocals to sit on the beat.
when you're the only
Let me give myself some pre-roll so I can count and catch the vibe.
When you're the only one that's there. When you're the only one there. When you're the only one that's there.
Let's listen to it with the track just to make sure that it makes sense with the track. All right, so when you're the only, I want to make sure that that lands on the kick when that comes in with the kick. So let's. So that needs to start here. All right, so there starts on time. So all of this seems a little bit early. So I'm going to move this back a little bit and then just check to see what that does. Transients right there. All right, so let's see. All right, so that was actually, I thought it was a little bit late, but it turned out to be a little bit early. So let's hear it with just the beat.
When you're the only one that.
That word one is a little ahead.
When you're the only one that.
So let's go ahead and move this one that's there. Sorry, let's listen.
When you're the only one that's there.
One that's there. Okay, so now I'm gonna stretch these so that they fit. We'll do the same thing with one that's, and I actually think I want this to end a little bit shorter too. So I'm not gonna touch that yet, but I am gonna make the cut. Now let's listen.
When you're the only one that's there.
All right, no artifacts. Let's listen to it with the track and see if it makes sense with the track.
When you're the only one that's there.
All right, so now I want to go the extra mile and I want to hear what this is going to sound like leading into this vocal. So I'm going to unmute this and I'm going to bring the looper back so I can have more context.
'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that's there. Yeah,
And I'm pretty happy with that. That sounds pretty good.
'cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that's there. Yeah,
Oh, okay, so let me hear it one more time.
'cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that's there. Yeah, the sunrise.
Awesome. Let me listen to it without the beat.
'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. Yeah.
All right, and that's like super on point now. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this back. I'm gonna remute this track, and now I'm gonna concentrate.
When you're the only.
Now I'm gonna concentrate on lining up these other voices. Looks like the same cuts I need to make. I was a little bit early. This one, same thing. I just kind of want to make sure that these are just slight adjustments here. You know, there's not anything. And remember, it doesn't need to be perfect. It can have milliseconds off. You know, it's not you don't need to worry about making it absolutely perfect. Unless you're going for that, you can make it very perfect if that's what you're going for. I'm not saying don't make it perfect. I'm just saying if you can't make it perfect, it's not that big of a deal. Just it kind of needs to be like in the ballpark, and I obviously just want to make sure that it's not phasing or anything like that. All right, so now let's listen back for any artifacts. I'm gonna solo the track.
When you're the only one dancing.
I'm gonna listen with the main track.
When you're the only one dancing.
Very good, very good. Now I'm gonna do the same with this last. All right, just make sure everything is lined up properly. Really good thing to do is just to put your track head somewhere and see if it's physically lined up. If it's not physically lined up, that's a great visual cue of like, hey, this is probably where this transient should be. For example, the playhead's right here, and you can see this transient's off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up so it's in the center, and then I'm going to check it alongside the other transients. As you can see, this is pretty close right there. This ending is very tight, so that's good. And this is a little bit off, but it's not terrible. What I can do to kind of fix this is I will cut right here, and instead of moving the whole entire word around, I'll just go ahead and shorten this intro up so that it is about the same length as this starting point. Actually, now that I'm looking back at the starting point, it's looking like this is starting on time. So I don't think any action is really needed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to listen for artifacts. I'm going to check the track. Okay, there's going to be an artifact right there. This right here can be stretched out a little bit. So this is what I'm going to do. This needs to be moved back. So I'm going to put the transient here. Play ahead on the transient. And I'm going to move this. Now, see, these are... Okay, these are looking lined up. These are looking pretty good lined up now. Let me chop right here. I'm gonna make the edit right there. And since this right here is isolated and lined up, what I can do now is I can stretch this word out a little bit and bring it up there, make the crossfade, and then I can bring this here and make the crossfade. Now I'll listen for some artifacts. All right, hearing no artifacts, I'll unsolo it. Now I want to hear everything together.
When you're the only one dancing.
All right, that is amazing. Now we're going to move to backup vocals and make sure that these are lined up with the regular track.
When you're the only one dancing. When you're the only one dancing.
Undo toggle flex. Let's do that. Undo toggle flex. Let's do that because I didn't mean to turn on flex. All right, now let me listen. Okay, so I can already see off the rip that these are not lined up. These bottom two are lined up. These top two are lined up. Let's see which ones are lined up correctly.
When you're the only one dancing.
All right, so to help me better gauge, I'm gonna have to listen to this center so I can get some bearings. Okay, that's the wrong track right here.
When you're the only one dancing.
Those are actually not too bad off. This is where it gets hard because sometimes you don't have to do anything, and that's okay. If you don't have to do anything, don't do anything. This is when you have to use your ears.
When you're the only one dancing.
I think it's this vocal that I'm hearing.
When you're the only one dancing.
Yeah, this one I think is a little bit. It's a little bit behind. Now let's listen.
When you're the only one dancing.
All right, it's sounding a little more on time now. So make sure these other. Put this on the transient here. And remember, if you don't need to adjust something, don't adjust it. In this instance, I'm gonna make some small adjustments. Nothing major. This one doesn't need to be moved. This one probably just a little bit. This one doesn't look like it needs to be moved too much. Now I'm gonna close. Now I'm gonna make these edits, the crossfade. I'm gonna crossfade these edits right here. Another crossfade to the edit right here. Right here there's some silence. Anytime you can crossfade in silence, I would definitely recommend crossfading in the silence. Alright, so that's good right there. This one I'm gonna pull out because I don't want this. I want this to be more the same length, so I'll go ahead and stretch that one out a little bit. Make sure that's the same length. I might actually shrink this one down a little bit and then pull this further back that way. And same thing with this one. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit and then pull this back that way. Okay, so that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and cut these. I'm going to pull this forward a little bit. Pull that forward a little bit. Pull that forward a little bit. Up. Okay.
When you're the only one that's it.
Now just listen for artifacts. This is good right here, but I want to make sure that this matches. Same here. Make sure it matches. Same here. Make sure it matches. All right, listen for artifacts.
When you're the only one that's it. When you're the only one that's it.
Listen to artifacts on all the tracks.
When you're the only one that's it.
That sounds good.
When you're the only one. When you're the only.
All right, so there's an artifact right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna crossfade, add a little crossfade that should get rid of that pop.
When you're the only one that's it. When you're the only.
Make that quicker crossfade.
When you're the only one that's it.
Make that a little longer of a crossfade because the quicker didn't work. Sometimes the longer crossfade is better. Don't be scared to do a long crossfade. It might smooth things out a little bit.
When you're the only one that's it. When you're the only one that's it.
Crossfade right here.
When you're the only one that's it.
All right, we'll listen to all of them together.
When you're the only
All right, now let's listen to it with all the vocals. When you're the only one that's there. All right, so now let's listen to it with the mix, and we're gonna see how long we actually want this last note to be. In order for that to happen, I'm going to need these vocals on as well, so I can hear the words in context. Yeah, so these should definitely, this lead is gonna definitely go shorter, so it's gonna end there. So we're gonna pull in these other vocals just to make sure that they're tucked underneath the lead. But when you're doing that, you want to make sure that your tracks are selected, and then you go ahead and cut right there. So you're only shortening the piece that you want shortened up. In this case, it's the ending of the word there. So we don't want to affect the whole word, we just want to affect where it ends. And now everything should end about here. All right, looks good. Let's listen to it. All right, so now we'll go ahead and remute these. Now there's additional backup singy vocals, so we're gonna go ahead and throw those in there and get those lined up as well. So that's going to be right here. I cut your body up. Let's go ahead and listen to that. All right, so let's make sure that it's in time. I cut your body up. All right, so let's see where this... Let's go ahead and clean that up a little bit. We'll clean that up a little bit. We'll clean this up a little bit. These two need to be lined up a little bit more, so we'll cut there. And we'll drag these back a little bit, so they're all starting at the same time. Oops. Save as you go. Don't forget to save as you go. Alright, so these two are a little bit early here, so let's go ahead and cut that so it's a little bit early. Yeah, so... I guess the biggest offense is how they're all ending in different areas, so we'll go ahead and fix that right now. Put these in down like that. Push this down right here. Let's listen. Okay, so let's close. Let's make crossfades where we had the edits, so there's no artifacts. move this over here. You always best edit, if possible, is in silence. So if you see an area that has silence, just make sure that you're editing in that silence. That's where you're putting your crossfades. And then other than that, just drag out the tracks until you get to a space that has silence. Like that, for example. I don't want to go too far, but I can go here. And then I put my track in a good spot with silence. This could actually be a little bit more in line there. All right, now let's listen to this. All right, now I actually want that I cut your body up to be a lot shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to shrink that down. Probably to about there. Let's hear it. I actually wanted to cut right there. So I'm gonna move those to here. So let's hear that now. Let's hear it longer how we had it, just for some context here. Actually gonna do, I'm gonna cut this here too, so that when I am shrinking this, all those endings can be the same. Alright, so we're gonna chop it up like around right here. Pun intended, pun intended. Alright, so now that that's chopped up, just make sure that we slip it in. Put a little fade just in case. Put a little fade there. Now we'll listen. Awesome. Now we'll listen back. All right. Awesome. Sounds great. And that sounds incredibly tighter. So now we have this singy portion for the chorus, and we're going to check that out next. Oh, is there more? right, so now we have sunrise right here that we have to do. Sunrise lonely.
Sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that.
So we'll go ahead and group these. The main thing is we want to make sure that all these start on time. So we're going to make sure that the transients are locked in on this starting point. And we will do that by cutting that there, putting the transient for each where it should be. Okay, and then making sure that each of these are level. All right. What do we have here? Level. Okay, we'll cut that right there, and then okay, no, that doesn't need that. That's level. Put this right here, and just we'll pull that in a little bit. Make sure that's the only one that's being affected. Oh, this one needs to be pulled in a little bit. We'll pull that in. Oh, that's why that's doing that. Look at that. That's not nice. Okay, that's why you wanna pull things back and not forward. So we'll just pull that in a little bit, and then I'll pull that forward. I'll edit that. Same thing with this one. I'm gonna want to pull this forward so I don't chop the word. I just wanna make the syllabus a little bit shorter. And we'll do that by doing that. And then we'll edit syllabus. Alright, so now all those are starting at the same time. We'll pull these all back to where they're connected to their home body. Then we'll add a crossfade. Quick crossfade. Now we'll listen.
Sunrise lonely.
And then the other issue would be making sure that they all end at the same time. Okay, so I hear something weird. It might just be the way the vocalist sang. Could be just the way that it was sung. I think it's here. Yeah, okay, so that's just the way it's sung. Alright, so now the big thing here is just going to make sure everything ends at the same time so it sounds nice and tight. Pull that back, pull that in. That's already tucked in. Tuck this in. And boom. Alright, so now let's... Alright, very good, very good.
Cut your body up. 'Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one that's there. I cut your body. Yeah, sunrise.
Alright, let's hear it within the context of the mix. Sounds a lot cleaner. So now let's check it out without the track.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body. The sunrise.
Yeah, that sounds definitely locked in. So what we'll do here is we will bounce this. We're gonna include the second half of this chorus that has not been edited, and then we'll listen for the difference. So the first one is edited and the second one is unedited.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body. The sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body up. Cut your body.
Yeah, and there's the difference right there. You know, you can hear that the first vocal that's edited is a lot more powerful and is just more present, and the vocal that's not edited is more loose and it's there. We'll listen to it one more time a cappella, then we'll play it with the music so we can really hear the difference.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body. The sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body up.
All right, now one time with the music so we can have a good general overview of how this affects the sound of the music.
Cut your body up. Cause the sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body. The sunrise is very lonely. When you're the only one dancing. I cut your body up. Cut your.
There you have it, folks. That is editing vocals and how I do it. So thank you so much for joining. For anyone that was interested, these vocals were recorded on a Aventone C12 through an LA610 Mark II. And these are how they sound raw. And the proof is in the pudding. Edit your vocals. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I read every comment and I do my best to answer in a timely manner. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Thank you for checking out this vocal editing tutorial. I appreciate you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and let me know what you want to see next. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day.